Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nasty Gram RPG podcast. May the Force be with you. My name is Devin, and we just finished playing Star Wars. I am joined around the table by
Dan, formerly Zeta Dio.
Do you hyphenate, Dan?
Yes.
Nice.
Jedi apprentice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just apprentice.
Not a Jedi.
Just
Yeah,
apprentice.
just apprentice.
Just apprentice.
Force user with lightsaber apprentice.
Hey guys, it's John. I formerly played Arish and less formally played S3. Does that make sense? No. Anyways,
It works.
Formally?
Let's not
formerly.
let's not get
It was
into the
formal?
semantics.
I was very formal.
S3's casual.
Very cash.
And this is Jake Santavar.
And we just finished playing Star Wars.
Jeez,
Excuse
Devin.
me.
Forgetting someone?
We are
Unbelievable.
also joined by
Yo.
consummate Star Wars nerd. We couldn't not have him.
It's Lisi, Mr. Dante, as Lisi the bounty hunter. And, my last thing I'm going to say is Ewoks ate all those stormtroopers on Empire.
Hell yeah, they did.
Yep.
Hey, just let everyone know, Disney Plus now has retro Star Wars. They've got all the Christmas Ewok specials.
Really?
All those crazy movies are on there now.
Those are wild.
Maybe one day they'll release the actual Star Wars, the despecialized versions that everyone else likes to
Yeah.
watch, and
Never heard of it.
we don't know what you're talking about.
They have Star Wars Christmas on there?
I heard they're going to have Wings of Kani on there.
Oh, I hope so.
Did you hear that? So we just finished playing, and I had to stop these guys because they were getting into rap territory with our conversation. Let's just start with what's fresh. That the final confrontation in Theed. We'll start from there and work backwards. What'd you guys think? Cool, daring. Son almost died. We talked about. There was a lot of luck spent. Especially Lisi had to come in hot in some dangerous situations, which I thought was very cool.
Yep.
And then S3 and Zeta were stepping into some
Dangerous waters.
dangerous waters.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was a great epic ending to finish off the final boss and maybe make a new final boss. Although I don't think we quite got there with Zahn.
No, but I thought it was pretty cool how we kind of got everyone who from our past sort of came back together. That was cool. Yeah. Having what was his name? Rhymes?
Captain Rhymes,
Captain
yeah.
Rhymes,
Commander
Lisi
Karn,
and
Lisi.
Karn, yeah, and that was cool. It was cool to see it all kind of come together.
Captain Rhymes, a.k.a. Josh,
Yes.
who I do have a note here. I'm sure we'll get to thank yous, but that's one we should probably...
Yeah.
Yep. Big thank you to Joshua Bruins for editing his way through this, even though he wasn't really
Yeah,
here
all
full-time.
work and no play for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing all the behind the scenes editing and not actually playing the game.
But he's number one in our hearts.
Captain
So-
Rhymes is one of my favorite characters. He just represented those ex-Imperials really well. He fed me a lot of stuff too. A lot of the scenes that we did with Captain Karn, or Commander Karn and Captain Rhymes were Josh's idea. He said, "Hey, it would be cool if we did this scene." And every single one, I said yes.
Who's Josh?
Yeah, right.
Kevin, I love you, dog.
I mean, what I also kind of love, which will lead into another thank you, is the kind of New Hope ending,
Yeah.
with the royalty, which brings us to Liv,
Liv.
across the pond.
You're the best, Liv.
Liv is we've said it before, part of the team, and having her contribution, it's great because she has, whether you're on the Substack or looking at the memes in the Nastygram Lounge, the stuff that she does just complements and supplements the stuff we do at the table. And it's always fun to see, the creations that we make here at the table, resonate with other people.
Her text scroll voiceover was the reason why I did the videos for YouTube, because
Nice.
I was like, this needs to be a text scroll. And then I looked at it, I'm like, this needs to be part of video podcast.
She's now podcast royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't watched on the YouTube, it's great. John has been putting graphics to it. The icon, the logo. I'm always a fan of the Nasty Gram stuff, but I think the Wings of Kani one is the best one by far.
Thanks.
The Instagram art on the episodes, it's
really good.
Well, don't thank me. That's a lot of artists that I borrow from, but I tried to make as much credit as I can to those people. Because obviously there's a lot of people out there making really incredible Star Wars art.
Yep. It's very, every single one was evocative. You know, I think it speaks to this collective Star Wars story, right? Whether it's the movies or the TV shows that, you know, everyone, this is something so familiar to everyone. So, you know, when these artists are making stuff that have no idea what our game is, have nothing to do with our game, and they have art that just so beautifully fits into the story that we're telling, I think speaks to, you know, the franchise and the material. But also, you know, everyone wants to tell a story.
On that note, sort of, Devin, one thing that I thought was really cool about this game is it felt very grounded. You know, going into it, we did a lot of Session Zero, a lot of world building, and then we kind of walked away from that, and we were like, damn, we came up with this like really cool like concept and these new alien races and everything, but we were kind of afraid that we had deviated too far from Star Wars. And we were worried about it being too much like detached from Star Wars. And you really, your game brought it back and made it felt very Star Wars. Like it was very, you know, like we're going to different planets, different environments on very Star Wars type missions.
Did I get you with the pod race?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, we did all the Star Wars things.
I think the probably the clever twist, so to speak, which isn't a twist to the audience, but a twist to us. When we were world building, we were very focused on the Kani. They became not an afterthought, but certainly a background character that was driving the plot, but the world of Star Wars took over versus our kind of genre that we had created in the background, which I think is important just for people to connect with.
Yeah, I think in any Star Wars game, you're going to have, if you have like a scamp raider that a group of roguish pilots are flying around, you're still going to be involved in the politics of the galaxy. So even though we have the Kani, even though they're kind of their own race, and we built this whole thing up, they're still going to be involved in whatever these politics are going to find them. And that, I think you did a great job of kind of highlighting that, like, no matter what, people want to put their grubby mitts on whatever races are out there, and utilize them however they can. And it's great.
Yeah, and I like the story of like, you know, like, oh, we're trying to find them. We're always one step behind them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I internally, we ended up not doing this in any of the episode titles or anything, but I wanted to have the game be broken into 3 acts, where the first act was Jadori 6 and the things there, discovering what happened to the fleet, you know, discovering the ex-Imperials, having that be the sort of the capstone, that big encounter, gaining allies, which was going to be from the beginning in our Session Zero. That's what this game was going to be about. That's what Liv's read at the beginning of every episode is gathering unlikely allies. And I think that I wanted that to be sort of central. Act 2 on Ordi Bana, which I think I just fell in love with. I had an idea originally to have, you know, a couple different planets, you know, following the fleet. But I really loved Ordi Bana, and you guys, I think, connected with it. And so I just said, let's have this next act be here, put something really sinister that will point to, you know, the bigger plot. And then I always knew it was going to be on Naboo. Ever since Session Zero, we talked about the Void Dancer and the Venko finding the Separatist battle droids. I said, this is going to be, we're going to go back to Naboo, you know, the Separatists. Something I wanted to evoke was the Imperial faction type of thing. Now, if you had listened to Empire's End, which is great if you have not, the Empire is fractured. There's these warlords. We met one of them, these wannabe warlords.
I don't know about wannabe.
With one ship, but I wanted to, the Imperial bounties and different factions wanting them, Imperials trying to sabotage other Imperials. I wanted
Malik was essentially one, right? With her ships and her command.
Yep, and her intention was to, abscond with the Kani, for herself, while the other Imperials were coming to collect it. No loyalties. Evandimo, Andrew, thank you, Andrew, for showing up and giving us some of that skullduggery in the.
So, I think I texted you guys like, was it like the next night? I don't know. It was like a while after that game. I think it was maybe the next night. I was just like sitting there thinking about the game, thinking about Andrew's character. And I was like, why did he keep fucking flipping his cloak around? I'm like, turncoat. Literally turncoat.
Very clever.
I listened back to that episode and I'm like, wow, we just
missed all of it.
We just hook, line, and sinker. Like at every opportunity where he was going to have to tell us something or direct us, we just offered up, let's go find the Imperials. And he's like, I happen to know them. And we're like, oh, great. Well, it's just, there's so many moments where I'm just like, oh man, we're bad.
We're rubes.
We fell into the player
PC,
character trap.
Yep, it was great.
Automatically trust them because they're a PC.
I'm going to give you a peek behind the screen. That was not originally the plan. Originally the plan was he was a spy in the midst of these Imperials, and I was using him as that essentially his character as a plot device, and he was doing a great job moving everything forward. He even while you guys were humming and hawing about stuff, he looks at his chronometer, and but he pushed it forward, and then we were getting to a point where I was like, oh, this is perfect for just that setup, like pull the rug out. And I just sent him a little nasty gram and he went right along with it. It was
awesome.
2 words, 3 words in between us. And it was awesome.
Devin, speaking of wondering if things were kind of planned out, so I know you wanted us to end up on Naboo. Were you planning on the goo being like a big thing, or was that Matt's fault?
That was Matt. Big thank you to Matt for bringing a lot
boy, Matt.
That was
to the
great.
Gungans.
I haven't heard that, but he told me about.
Yeah.
Oh,
with
man.
the goo.
It's brilliant.
This is your world, and it's called goo. I'm like, shut up, Matt.
Yep. I had, some of the just basics, but Matt, he has never seen episode 1. He has not seen the trilogy.
Good for you, Matt.
But he went on like a Wikipedia page and watched a YouTube video on a Gungan voice, and he nailed it. Nailed it.
Yep.
Also, anyone who's interested in Star Wars, Wikipedia, I have to shout them out.
Yeah.
It is this like
Great.
open source
so good.
document of all things Star Wars.
If you Google anything Star Wars, Wikipedia is usually what it
top.
shows.
Yeah.
Ordibana. So originally, I just searching all these planets on Wikipedia. Well, I would like a Wikipedia hole, right? You have a link from this event happened led by this person here, and I'd click on that and go read about this. That's how I found Ordibana.
Ordibana is such a cool place. Yeah,
It's
you could
awesome.
run a whole campaign there.
And it's an actual level in the pod racer games. And
nice.
the race is called the Abyss. And I watched some YouTube videos of speed runs of the Abyss. It gave me inspiration for the pod race. And pirates and it's classic Star Wars things. I have some questions for you guys.
Shoot.
We'll start off pretty light. Your characters, are there any moves that you guys didn't get to use, or had this when you read the move, you said, oh, this is going to be cool when I can do this and this and this? If there's any that you weren't able to use and want to talk about now, or if there's any moments where you had a move that was just so perfect and it fit nicely with the story.
I never really used the workspace to build anything. A little bit I did, but with Rige
In death.
but it's
Postmortem.
Postmortem. But I think the problem with that one is it is more of a downtime activity, and we didn't have, which was a good thing. We didn't have a lot of downtime, which I think when it comes to like these Monster Week type games, the Powered by League Apocalypse, you want to keep the story moving along. I think a downtime activity or downtime move doesn't really fit in the theme of the game. So that was one of the things that it's also like his main move, like the main move for the Gearhead is workspace. So maybe changing that would have been a good idea down the line when I figured out it wasn't really being used. That was the main one. That
was a cool piece of like, it's a narrative tool though, right? Because you had this thing, this workspace.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, with the charge using the booster engine to make a bomb. And, and it also had this, it was a place that was your own. I think we had a couple scenes with Region S3 or Region Zeta in the workshop. I think if there's, that adds value to the game.
Yeah.
So I think, as GMs and players, if you see something that, a move that you want to tweak and move around, you definitely encourage to do it.
Yeah.
Especially with these games.
Yeah.
For me, I got to use every move I wanted, but I had this idea for my character, we were going back and forth and I was just like, I usually play a more morally just character. And it's hard for me to play like somebody who is more chaotic or something like that. So when I was making my bounty hunter, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be this arrogant, ruthless, cold, calculated bounty hunter, Boba Fett inspiration. And then talking to Devin, I was like, okay, that completely went out the window. I was like, okay, maybe I'll be more like a comic relief. I was thinking of that episode of Mandalorian with Bill Burr. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a mix of like the seriousness of that episode with like Bo-Katan and just like the comic relief of like Bill Burr. And then jumping in with you guys, it was how these games are and how they should be. It just, or my character organically changed almost instantly because of the conviction of your characters, the situation that you set up. Like even the intro of my first scene, I'm sitting in the bar and I'm so intent listening to you and getting filled in. I listened to a couple episodes before, like the 2 episodes leading up to it, and then like fully understood who you guys were. Well, at least up to that point. And I'm just listening to you, Devin, like, okay, you're in the bar, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, shit, I have to. I was so caught up in it. And so my character completely went out the window. The person who I thought I was going to be, I can't find the note. I was looking for it, but I had it written down like cold, calculated, this and that. And then I more became a support character, which was perfect. It was just like, I didn't know how long I was going to be alive. Not even like last. I'm like, I could be gone. First of all, that was the first thing was, hey, why don't we text Devin? Hey, why don't we make it like I'm never going to come back? And that's why at the end of the first part, I was like, oh, I hope I never see you guys again. But even as I was saying that, I was already like, I hope they ask me to come back because I was able to form a relationship with you guys very quickly as that character and was more like, okay, I came here originally for the money and whatever. And I was so ready to be like, cool, just a quick cameo to being like, oh shoot, like I want to be part of this squad. And then when you asked me to come back, I'm like, yeah, like you guys are people I would consider acquaintances, people who I can trust. I'm using
you refer to them as a crew when you were talking with one with Imperial bounty collector.
What's funny is that your mission and what your character became salvaged one of my more regrettable actions. One of the more regrettable actions that I have throughout the campaign. Just like, and it was fine because I actually sent Devin, I sent you a nastygram whether I should do it or not. And this goes also in hand with your initial question, which is about moves. When we created the Venko, we talked about what they could do as a race, as a species. And a lot of the slicer abilities, we just made them inherent to the race itself. Rather than, taking a plug and jacking in your data pad, Zeta was the data pad. Zeta was the jack, So, and that move, remote control, where you can just take control of another vehicle, in this style of game, it's very powerful because you just do it. You don't roll, you just do it. And
the Wookiee incident.
Yeah. And so, but the regrettable action was, when I was being escorted by the 2 droids and I was in a position where I could be taken to, a hostile area, and I was thinking of how do I escape this, I obliterated them by taking control of the vehicle. But the problem with that is that we just spent like 2 sessions setting up this whole pod racing idea in order to get the attention of Typhon to meet with him. And then I just blew that all out of the water. But only because you had the bounty on him did we go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of rescued the moment when I realized I really should have just gone along. I know you said yes. I know you said yes, Devin, but I think I should have ignored that instinct and just gotten captured.
I'm going to make you feel better.
Okay.
I had that clock, right? That goon squad and get Typhon's attention. And by the end of it, as it was filling up, it was just sort of a mental reminder for me. So whatever fence I was sitting on, I definitely started leaning towards the goon squad side when you made that roll to capture the droid, and we joked about like the fisheye view of Zeta just like grabbing this spy
That's
droid
right.
and just
I
like
forgot
you
about
just
that.
see his face in
Yep.
this bulb, and that just it started. Once I started
Trickled
there,
down. Yeah. Okay.
but it's just great moments like that. It's it's one roll where just in my brain I'm just like, yep, this is the cool thing that's going to happen. But the thing I love about these games is just chaos, right? Anytime something happens, there's always room for chaos, and I think the setting of Ordibana was just perfect for it. Some of my favorite episodes, some of my favorite sessions were some of the things on Ordibana.
Yeah. Jake, did you have any moves?
Jake.
No, I mean, I feel like I really got to use all of my moves a lot. I think, I feel like when we looked at the playbooks and stuff, the Jedi wasn't, this isn't a real game, right? This is like someone made it and put it on the internet.
Yeah, they cobbled together.
I feel like the Jedi wasn't really super fleshed out. Like we had to change things a little bit. Like we had to figure out how exactly like dark side points worked, because it kind of just said like get dark side points, and I'm happy with like the system we came up with.
Yeah, I think it was great.
For Force users with
I
lightsabers.
think it worked really well. I liked all my powers. I definitely felt like I got to use them all a lot. And I think that what we did with the dark side points, flipping the attributes, like for me, so like on my character sheet, I have like all the attributes on the left, and then next to it, I have the dark side version. So it's canny or fearful, cool or arrogant, deep or twisted,
That's cool.
rugged or aggressive, suave or treacherous. And I have them circled, like which one I am at any moment, because it can fluctuate. But just being able to reference that on my character sheet, like there were so many times where like I would let that sort of guide my role-playing choices, like, is my character fearful right now? Like, cause at the beginning there was a while where I was fearful instead of canny, and I was trying to role-play that. And then I like put some points into that so that I wasn't fearful anymore, and I thought that was a really useful guide for role-playing.
The fight with Typhon was how San approached that was very different than the final battle with Malik.
Yep.
Because
because I
fearful.
was fearful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then against Malik, I was arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And aggressive.
You were like reluctant to jump through the
Yeah,
ceiling.
yeah.
We all went through, and you were very much like, I'm not pulling out my sabers. I'm
Even
not
at the beginning of
Yeah.
the fight, I think you were trying to throw things at him rather than engage him.
Yep. You didn't pull your sabers.
But I think also part of that also is I the way I wanted to play San was to have him be changing over the course of the game. And I think that the system for dark side points really helped make that. It worked really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where, he was falling to the dark side. I mean, if I had one more bad roll,
I think
we would have had a
I think that was a more
dark side
dramatic
epilogue.
a more dramatic fall to the dark side than Anakin Skywalker. I think more compelling than just your getting mad at the cool kids club who didn't let you sit at the table, and it was very cool to watch him.
I think that was my
change.
favorite part of this system was ironically the part that we made up, which was that I think it worked really well.
I mean, we've talked about this off mic too. How much story exists around Force users and Jedi, and it's always refreshing to try to maybe not necessarily turn it on its head, but to move away from the black and white of Sith versus Jedi. And I think what's cool about this setting that kind of started with Empire's End is that it is this chaotic end where good and bad are very difficult to pinpoint. And in a lot of ways you see what was bad becoming good and what was good becoming bad. And that's always interesting storytelling, right?
Saw that with the guillotine as well.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's really something that is not inherent to Star Wars.
Yeah. Right. It's very black and white.
Yeah.
George Lucas, God bless his soul, but wherever he is on the spectrum, it is a black and white world.
Yep. I think
even with Rij, it was not. He wasn't black and white.
right.
Some of the methodologies that he utilized were, and it's something that was never really addressed, obviously in the original Star Wars, but it was addressed in like Andor, where rebellion doesn't happen in a clean environment.
Rij was a great Andor character, right? Because and as we got to see as he played out, and a lot through background scenes, but like we got to see that as it played out. Like, oh wait, like. Sure, he's fighting for a good cause, but he's kind of
doing the right way,
doing whatever needs to be done,
whatever it means necessary.
Right.
And you've seen this now more especially in the cartoons, but trying to humanize stormtroopers, and I think that's what Josh's scene did so well.
It was great.
Trying to pull out those few that would venture out and be something other than a stormtrooper and dying for it,
making it even more tragic that they died in that facility.
They weren't just a helmet.
Yeah,
and it was a small part of the finale, but those stormtroopers were on board that
the no helmet ones.
That ship. No helmet. I want give them all a face,
even though it's the same face.
Even though it's the same face.
Well, most of them, but not all of them.
Can I say too? Like,
no.
Yeah, you're right. Pull myself out.
Can it?
I liked how everybody's character developed and the abilities that you all had, because and nobody felt overpowered. You were a force user. You were a
space robot.
A space robot. With, force powers.
Force robot.
You Rij and S2. But it was really cool because it never felt like we were just going to breeze through any situation. Every situation felt like adequately challenging, and everybody was doing their best to make sure they survived. It wasn't just like, and we used our luck when we had to use our luck. There were a lot of situations, we had some really great rolls and stuff, but there were a lot of situations where every situation seemed dire. Every roll was like, okay, let's not screw this roll up because, it might go south. So I think that was really cool too, as limitless as our powers were. And, you had a droid and you had a character, you were this non-human, you have force powers, everybody felt very grounded and everybody felt very mortal versus like doing Monster of the Week. Obviously, we're getting Ken off the wagon and stuff like that. And it was like, hey, if I die, I can turn into an angel, whatever. And even versus listening to Empire's End, like this one seemed, I felt a little stronger versus listening to that, but still very, very much mortal in any situation that we were in. And even just not even being mortal, just being like, if we don't do this right, we may not get to this objective that we're getting to, and this could be all for naught,
Yeah, I think these characters, as compared to characters in Empire's End, the Wings of Kani characters are more heroic. It's that heroic fantasy game.
Yep.
Where the characters were even more fragile, I think, in Empire's End, and that's a combination of setting. The game system is different that we use, and also battles where the combat was rarer. Yeah. But I remember Nero Orn almost died trying to
multiple times.
So it was very dangerous. But I think Wings of Kani, I wanted to have that, a lot of action, a lot of those. There was some of these, just quintessential Star Wars scenes, these story beats that I wanted to do. I think we did them.
I mean, in terms of system, I will say, we all obviously all love the Powered by the Apocalypse systems. The only thing I would say is that perhaps, Devin, you may have pulled the punches a bit too much, because there are ways for players to mitigate damage, and sometimes it's in a way that is characterful, like taking the wounds and having the permanent minuses,
Abilities.
the abilities.
That was actually on my
And I
talking
think
points.
it's tough. Like we've all been in the seat of Monsters of the Week, where you have a monster that does like 3 harm or 4 harm, and you feel bad about giving your players that harm. But to that end, it's meant to be that way. Like you're meant to give them that much harm because you have these abilities, you have these wounds, you have the luck, you have all these ways of mitigating damage, which make it more characterful. Because if I start running out of luck or I start running out of wounds, I'm worse off. I have a bum leg. I have whatever. It adds that flavor to the entire game. Not to say that we didn't have that flavor anyways, because we love playing. We love failing in these systems, so it
Failing is fun.
makes it easy.
I thought of in that final fight that if I failed a roll fighting her, that I was just going to have her lightsaber go right through me.
But then you're like, okay.
Different organics.
Something I ran a couple of Monster of the Week games, and harm is the one I struggle with the most.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah, I think, and it's a skill. I think just playing the game more, you learn it more. But I think what we talked about earlier is, we didn't have those extended rests, so the the wounds that you that you slowly acquire over the course of the adventure, they didn't really go away. I think we had one opportunity to heal them.
Yeah.
But that, and I think that's more representative of, that journey, right? That long, that you're on this quest and you're getting knocked down and picking yourselves up and using whatever you have left in the tank, so to speak. So it ended up, I definitely could have used those debilities more, or just inflicted more harm and made
If
you
you'd
guys pick the
inflicted more
debilities.
harm on us, then
Yeah.
the debilities would have happened.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because people would be choosing between luck and abilities.
Yep.
Even Rage, he got down a bunch of times. I never had to use ability, and I never really had to use luck to block damage. And I only had 3 luck left because I used it for rolls. But then if you add more harm onto it, you also have that mental math of like, I failed a roll. Will I spend that luck on that, or I'll spend it on the next time I get hit for 4 harm and I'm screwed.
Yep. We did have one character, General Popo Gallo, run out of luck. That was a sort of a deal I made with him. Josh was originally the one who suggested it, but he, I said, hey, your character is, older in age and you've had this long career. So, mark off X number of luck and I'll give you you can pick some advancements. You can pick an advanced one if you mark off, a third, and so he started the game with, I think, maybe 2 luck.
Yeah.
And used them to great effect.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for like if you're running a one shot, or if someone's just jumping in for one game, then it makes sense that they only have a couple luck. Yeah.
Well, it's great when you run out of luck. It says you're doomed. Popo Gallo.
That was,
in general.
but also he used the luck to succeed.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think it was perfect execution of
Yeah.
using your last luck
Yep.
to make a heroic sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of agree with John to some extent. Like I ended the game with 4 luck, like
I had a fair amount too.
so it's sort of like, and having all that luck, you kind of don't feel like you're in danger because you're always like, oh, I just use luck.
Yeah.
You know? So I think if you had hit us a little harder earlier on so that we went into that with a little less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to do self-inflicted harm.
You definitely
per my
succeeded.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic
I'd
Dan.
say that the big thing about Power by the Apocalypse games, though, is that they require a level of trust between like the players and the game master, because you can abuse like that fucking wireless hacking thing. You know what I mean? Or use the Force. It's like so broad in its description. Like you can really abuse the powers if you want to, and it's really about like trusting each other to make a good story and not just try to min-max.
Just bulldoze through.
Yeah.
Were there any story beats that you were hoping to hit that we missed?
The entire story.
Yeah, you missed the whole point. No, because I think you guys, you either talked to me about it, or did it yourselves, is making opportunities for you guys to do your cool stuff. in my goal, I think I didn't have any particular things I wanted to hit. I wanted there to be some classic Star Wars shit. The pod race, I ham fisted right at you guys, but that, the other things, you made opportunities for your characters to do cool stuff, and that's what I wanted.
Yep.
I do, just a small note. We talked about the Kani sort of being a background thing. I kind of wanted the Venko to be. I wanted to have a little bit more with the Venko. But I think as sort of in the finale, I was like, no, I think they're, when we talked about them originally, they have this other calling. They have this other, something else that they're pursuing. And I think I wanted to make the situation more dire on Naboo. And so I just took the Void Dancer away.
I think that was smart because, John and I were talking about this with a show we're watching, but sometimes if you try to over explain, you just get lost in the weeds. And rather than let the character and the actions around the character speak for themselves, because ultimately, yes, it's about the history and the nitty gritty and the technical stuff, but we're all in here, trying to tell an immediate story, and that's the focus. And you supplement things by pulling from past and pulling from whatever you've created as a background, but ultimately it's those immediate actions. So I think that was probably a smart move.
And I think we learned about Zeta. We learned about the Venko just through Zeta, where we didn't have those same things, that same character that represented the Kani. But that's fine. I was happy with them being in the background. You got to meet the aspect and got to interact with them and see, this whole environment was sort of a projection of them. But we got to see, with Dio, the scenes with DCM, the intro scenes. I think we got a really cool look, and I'm okay with leaving, it's mysterious. We got to see in the scene with the destruction of the Hyphae, when we finally got to see it, we saw the power of multiple Venko working together to do this thing, and I'm very happy to show them, the potential of these things. And San talked about it a lot. The potential of the Venko to do these things. I thought that was cool.
So Dan, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you plan on that?
Nope.
No.
Not even a little.
I mean, I hope you were okay with it. We
no,
didn't
it was
really
great.
talk about it ahead of time. So like I had this bond with you from the beginning.
Yep.
But also had no intention that San was correct in his assumption.
Well, that's I
that
think
you guys were using the Force.
and I wanted to always be a foil to that, and always make it seem like it wasn't the case.
Right. And I kind of figured that would just be our dynamic of,
Sure.
spiritual versus technical.
Yeah, and I because one of the things I wanted to avoid too was creating a character that was so freaking powerful.
Another one.
Another one.
Yeah.
But it's
But I think what happened is when there was a part where like San tapped into like the Takani collective memory, which kind of got me thinking like, oh, maybe there's more to this, like their connection to the Force, like they're all connected to each other and to their planet and everything. And then when you revealed that that they were literally like a conduit for the Force, that's when I was like, no, dude, like really, you're like, you were created by the Force. Like you are Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's just in some ways he's just an animated kyber crystal.
Yeah, I thought of that a lot. I was going to call you a kyber crystal at one point. Listening back, I was like, I should have called
We
him a
just
kyber
put
crystal.
him in a giant lightsaber.
Yeah. There's just Venko in the satellites shooting laser beams.
Choo-choo.
I mean, what's always great is you never know how other characters will push and pull your concept or your personality. And I mean, Zeta didn't have much of a personality, so to speak, but that was, trying to be, again, that foil. Because you want to make them different. You want to make them alien.
He had
right?
quirks.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to talk about something we talked about early on. Rej and Zeta, sort of similar at the base level, the slicer and the gearhead. I mean, we made a comparison to the old D6 Star Wars where one is technical in Zeta and one is mechanical in Rej. and we had talked a little bit about, are the characters too similar? The thing with the droids, when Dan had just this cool idea with the battle droids and things like that, and John had a very basic move was your Durasteel companion. Do you think by the end of the story, and I think we did this. I'm curious what you guys think. I think as we learned more about the characters and as you guys played more of the characters and discovered more yourselves, I think they became two very distinct characters mechanically, as you're taking moves from other playlists, but also story wise, where the characters find their path and move towards it. I'm curious what you guys think.
I think it was pretty clear that even early on that there were different skill sets and different methodologies, and when Zeta started kind of filtering towards their power being more force-ish, and Rij being more of the partisan, more of the former rebel, kind of hacker, as opposed to Zeta's clean, slicer,
very precise,
a precise technical versus a imprecise mechanical. I think that kind of separated it a lot. And having S3 was great as like a little helper and like a foil character. We could kind of play around with that. And it was great to have when Rij died, I could just play S3.
It was perfect.
And that was really fun because I had this thought. It was really dumb. I was like, why don't I just play an astromech throughout the entire campaign, beeps and boops the entire thing? And that would have been awful to do for everybody. But it was fun for a couple episodes to just be a beep boop astromech.
I think going back to Jake's earlier point, you got to trust one another a little bit.
Yeah.
And while there were a lot of scenes where technically our skills may have overlapped, what happens, what I generally find is whoever takes the football, so to speak, and is running with the play will then pass it off to someone else to do something different in that scene.
Yeah.
So whether I had started the scene and I was opening the door, I would say the power has not been supplied. I need a power source, and that would allow John to step in, or John would say the power is there, but the program isn't working, and it'll allow me on the technical side. So I think when you've been playing together for
a while,
a gazillion years, you just end up working those relationships.
Rewarding teamwork. I think it's something I did early on. I probably had this thought, and I think it just stuck with me. And I think maybe, when I pulled punches, during some of these, combats and these dramatic situations, I think I was just eager to reward good teamwork.
Yeah,
sure.
Whether the rolls were good, which a lot of time they were.
We rolled pretty good in this.
Yeah, when someone does like a bold action or you guys do, these cool teamwork things, and San had that apprentice move that he just took that you only used it once, but it was to, great effect to help
17.
It was incredible. And it's that adds to the narration where, there's no mechanical benefit for rolling a 17.
Sure, right.
But it's just, and it's an astounding success, and it's, it's good teamwork, cool ideas from players at the table, that'll just, it'll allow me, and it has allowed you guys to just describe cool things.
Yeah.
Which, I'd rather have that than, a sort of a punishing sort of, grind you down type of game. I wanted it to be heroic. We're playing. I like the heroic fantasy, especially in like the later episodes or these dramatic situations, because I think, in the rising actions, there's a lot of failure. Right, that's the whole point. Is we're failing forward. We're always moving forward. You guys are getting knocked down and then triumphing, coming out triumphant in the end. Whether it's on the bridge of the guillotine, in Typhon's Tower, or, in the city of Naboo. So I have one more topic, splitting the party. Something that every meme D&D poster talks about. Don't split the party. We split the party. You split the party. I split the party. We all split the party several times. I thought it's great. It allows us to, allows me to tell more, to expose more to you guys, to give you guys more to work with. And I think it lets you guys, have your characters do the things that they are good at.
I mean, it's exceedingly Star Wars.
I was about to say it's
to
Star
have
Wars.
those wipes over to another group doing their own thing in the same battle, contributing. And I think you can't have Star Wars without.
This is a bit of a tangent, but what's interesting? Is that why the new Star Wars movies are so bad?
Because there's no splits.
They don't really do it, or they don't do it well.
They don't feel like Star Wars.
The original trilogy and also episode 1, 2, and 3, they have those tiered battles. You've got your people having a lightsaber duel. You've got massive ground combat, and then you've got aerial dogfighting. There's so many parts. There's so many battles where that's happening on 3 levels at once. Yep. And I like you said, that's quintessential Star Wars, like at its core.
Well, they had it at the last movie where they're cavalry charging on top of a Star Destroyer and there's air combat.
They did what?
So part of the issue, I think, though, is characters you care about. Mm-hmm. I mean, because they did it in Andor. There are a lot of characters, and you care about all of them.
Yeah.
The big guy, Marva's friend, the guy who confronted Cassian when he arrived in the plane. I forget his name. But great character.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but the ones when he's on screen, you're like, you are very interested in what he's doing because he cares, but he's at odds with Cassian.
With that, like you have characters that you care about. When you split the party, you're putting these people into even more danger. Yep. So you have that elevated level of care as to what's going on. And when we play our characters split, I think there is a unspoken agreement that you're not going to bogart the time from the other characters.
Yeah.
So you do your thing.
That's
you have
partially
your objective,
on the GM.
And it is
too.
on the GM, but it is on the players too, and not like bloviate on what they're doing and talk about like all these things they want to do. I want to do this, and this. I'm going to do this objective. We're going to roll for it. We're going to have a reaction to it. Then we'll go on to the other characters, see how what I did affected them, what they're doing affected me, and eventually come back together.
And you can have so much more going on at once. Like in a hour and a half, 2 hour episode, we can cover a lot more ground when we have those jump back and forth between a couple scenes type things.
There were moments too, like that. One that, like for example, we were in the Dory 6, I think, and we were all in the little chamber. It was Rhymes and the other stormtroopers, us. We were all in the chamber trying to work out like what information we needed to pull from that place. And San got like a force sense and wandered off on his own. And that is so Star Wars to me because that's what happens to Jedi or Force users.
Yeah.
And they kind of have a separate scene unto themselves where they discover something and learn something.
Moves the plot forward in another direction. Yeah.
Right. And that, I think, is your point, Jake, is that so much more can happen.
Yeah.
Also, like, we're not all good at all the same things. And I think it's kind of silly when when everyone does everything, what I mean? So like if there's space combat, then San's not going to do a whole lot. And it makes more sense if he's on the ground fighting some stormtroopers or something, For
the earlier part of the arc, I didn't really play Zeta as a combat character at all.
Right.
And so I usually tried to put myself in a position to use his technical expertise to be the weapon.
He stood outside of the bridge on
that's right.
on the guillotine.
Cut someone's arm off with the elevator.
Bring your kid to work day.
That's combat, right?
Yeah. So I mean that was very much like I think he had like a regular blaster. That was about it.
I think that goes to say something about the rule set is it is fan made, and you can kind of feel it in some of the corners of it, where some of the playbooks felt more fleshed out than others. Some of the moves felt more fleshed out. But at the end of the day, every character seemed to have their own specialty, and you were allowed to shine in that. I think some games will attempt to make you okay at most things and good at other things, whereas this is more like you're kind of bad at some stuff, which is okay because you might fail those rolls if you're putting pressure and you have to make a suave roll to get to trick some stormtroopers into believing you're not a prisoner or whatever. But it's fun that way because you're a gruff Kita who hates Imperials, and it comes through in how you're saying it. Your suave is really bad, and you get in trouble, and then your friends have to break you out. And I think allowing you to be bad at things is one of the great things about the system.
I do wish sometimes that the system had a little bit more guidance, because there are times where I'm like, does my character know how to do that? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
do I the big one that comes to mind is like all of the stuff on Naboo when we were like underwater.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled a lot to be like, how can San be useful?
Sure.
Yeah.
And looking at my character sheet didn't really help. I'm looking at it, I'm like, do I know how to do things?
Do I know how
underwater?
radar
Like,
works?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't swing my lightsaber at it right now, and I can't talk to it. So those are like the two things I do. I talk to people and I swing my lightsaber.
To an extent, though, I mean, you have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan who are underwater, and
Right.
they have some use because they have Jedi senses and whatever.
Right. And I'm totally fine with take
liberties.
totally fine with taking a back seat
And that too,
for those scenes. But it's just that sometimes the open-endedness of the system makes it a little harder to know like what you can do.
Where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
I'm just going to shout out. It's Doyce, Doyce. That's the person who did this hack, this Star Wars World hack. I just wanted to shout them out. I'm definitely going to be reaching out and thanking them, and
Tell them to give them a listen.
Yeah, give them a link. Tell them to like and subscribe. Leave a 5-star comment. But
We used your system, bro.
yeah. Speaking of 5-star comments, we are going to go to
First thing,
sorry.
last thing I want to ask everybody. Is
Yes.
Just what was your favorite moment
Oh
from
boy.
from the listen, from the whole thing? I'll go first since I asked the question.
Please, John.
Hold on, cut. John, what was your favorite part?
Oh, thanks for asking.
Oh, thank you for asking. I think it was Rij and Zeta and the Wandering Star at the end of episode 12.
That was a brutal scene.
Where you had to eat Dio. And Rij was kind of teaching you the sacrifice of war and
The meaning of family and making a decision
making very
between
hard
families.
decisions. Yeah.
I don't know who did I ask? Was it San or Rij about how do we decide who dies?
I think it was
It was Rij, I think. Right? Was it?
I don't know.
Just listen to this.
Dan, did you even listen to the episode?
Whoever had less of an impact on whoever had more of an impact, I can't remember what the response was. Damn, I can't remember who asked.
I can't remember who I asked.
I just listened to it.
I think it was Rij, because Rij was the one who tell you like, this is not a decision for us to make. This is for, between you and Dio.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dan and we talked about that scene and how difficult it was to play robots where I was welling up. It was we had only met Dio for a short amount of time, but we've for the entire arc up to that point, it's constantly the scarcity of calamite and the danger that the Venko are in just by existing and using energy and resources in this and then finding one of your own, the first other Venko that we've seen, and them being destroyed so that Zeta can live. That was incredible.
Yeah,
incredible. My favorite, not even a scene, but something that I think played out, especially considering the end of this story, is there was just a moment was it the first episode where San was meditating up in a chamber, and he does this thing where he just says, "I speak aloud to no one in particular," and he speaks, and then there's just this pause, and I jump in with the room darkens and you hear a voice from over your shoulder, And that became like a very central thing or a very important thing for San's scenes when he snuck away in the facility on Dodori 6. Like his master was with him. And I wanted to give the impression to everyone, the listeners and the other players at the table, that maybe she was dead and that this was a force ghost, the same way that, you know, Yoda would speak to, you know, Luke or Obi-Wan or whatever. But then, you know, ending like coming into having this character as, you know, always being with San and all, you know, just being in the shadows and then coming into the forefront. It was something I hadn't put anywhere on paper or even thought about it much until that one moment where, you know, San speaks and then something responds.
Was Malik always the bad guy?
No.
Yeah, those improv moments are the best.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, it's like you get some of the best stuff out of them.
Yep. A lot of the cold opens that you've heard in this arc, these episodes, is a lot of times I come into an episode without a sort of an open, and then as we play, I'll realize, oh, this is something that I want to do in an opening scene for this episode. And we actually, you know, we record these intro scenes from each of the players. We'll a lot of times do it after the fact, especially early on where we had this big world and all these things that we created. And when we show one of those things, we'll then, you know, try to explain it or show it in an intro scene. And we did that a lot. And I think it's a good way to do it because then we can make each of these intros, you know, relevant to the story that we'll tell. It feels like a, you know, TV show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else favorite moments? Dante, you got one?
Yes. Actually, one of my favorite moments, I was just trying to think about it, was just that last scene, that last fight scene. But specifically, like what you three were doing. S3 sneaking behind. Reej is gone. But like, I just like the way that S3 was going about taking care of the pods in the back. And then the scene where you, Dio, and San were tangled up with Malik. Right? That was Malik, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And just that idea of the lightning being held, how Jake, you just described it, like that push and go, and then that overtaking you, and then the lightsaber like stopping the other two hits. It felt so like anime. And like it was really cool. And I'm like, at that point too, coming back, you know, the very first episode, I'm supposed to be this. I'm just the toughest badass. Just realizing like, yo, I just want to be as much support because as much as I'm involved in this story, this isn't my story, and so I was able to take a back seat as a character and take a back seat physically and sit there. And then just that whole freeze up. And I'm like, okay, you were just floating and flying a minute ago. And now you've come to the point where you've got 3 threats and you're holding them off, but you're still super powerful because you're able to, and I just hit you with a barrage of bullets. So that was really, really cool to me. And then talking about earlier, the scene where we were fighting Typhon. And we were all so eager to go up. And it's like, I think even Dan, you might have said like, you're not going to pull your lightsaber or something like that. We like laughed about it, but the idea like you've got these lightsabers and you're ready to, you could do so much in this situation, but just being hesitant.
I think I said now, Silent Bob.
Yeah, that's what you told me. Yeah, that's now Silent Bob. I like those scenes. Those were really cool because especially those two, I'm like, I was ready to hunt Typhon until I saw the sabers, and I'm like, I'm useless. What the hell am I supposed to do?
Did anyone expect that, by the way?
No.
Nice.
They said the folded arms too, and I'm like, oh, this is.
I thought it was going to be Malik. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned you know, it being a supporting character and like it not being your story, and that's something that I was kind of was trying to be aware of the whole time as well. And it's hard. It's hard when there's a Jedi, right? It's hard for a Jedi to not be a main character in a Star Wars game. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this isn't like, you know, the story of San maybe coming back from the dark side. It's Wings of Kani. Like it's about the Kani, you know? So I really wanted him. I hope it came across that San was kind of a parasite. Like he kind of latched on to the Kani because he's like, oh, they're really powerful. They'll keep me safe from my master. You know, like I wanted to play this character that was sort of like seemed really wise and like a badass on the surface, but then the more you got to know him, the more you realize like he's pretty vulnerable and he's pretty scared all the time. Like his whole story is that he opportunistically tried to kill his master, and then when he failed, he ran away, and then he found a powerful fleet that he could latch onto and convince them that he was important. And as the game went on, I'm like, you know, I don't want like all the spotlight. I don't want the game to be about him. And I think seeing that opportunity for Zeta to, you know, be that sort of force of neutrality, like
I very much felt like you propelled Zeta's character in a lot of ways.
I think that having that opportunity for the balance thing was kind of my answer, my ticket to like,
sure,
cool. Now it's not about me. It's like
Zeta dealt the killing blow.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just kind of like there to kind of push them in that direction.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of scenes where San was like empowering others, whether it was Lisi moving around Ordibana, whether it was, you know, Zeta
evolving.
Did San and Rij ever have any of those scenes?
Not really.
Not a ton.
I think that's actually good because I feel like Rij would have seen through his bullshit.
We had one good scene early on with Rij convincing him that we should bring explosives. and I think that was one of my earliest opportunities to kind of show like the San's vulnerability. Like, you know, he was scared. He's like, yeah, we should fucking put explosives on this thing in case those guys betray us. Right. Like have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Like, and that was also one of the first times San did something that was clearly like very non-Jedi.
Yeah. Cowardly.
Yeah. So we had that. We missed definitely a missed opportunity. That we didn't have a conversation about the red lightsabers.
Yeah. I think
we'll do it in post.
Yeah.
We're like 8 episodes past that point.
Rij obviously the whole thing where he commented on the bet that he had with Caldo about the color of the lightsabers. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, he probably should have had a more direct confrontation with San about his past and where he got those.
That might be softened by player characters.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's another case of that. Like, well,
you don't want to have the antagonism.
But I think we could have had a scene where you were like, you know, the only time I've ever seen red lightsabers or whatever. You know,
that would be a cool epilogue scene. Okay, questions? Ready?
Do we get everybody's?
I mean,
we get dance.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care about
mine is mine is probably the scene between Rij, San, and Dio. That whole scene was, there's this weird.
Felt bad that it was kind of an epilogue scene because I felt like
it was a weird humanizing moment. Or an attempt at it, which I like even more that it was an attempt, not necessarily, you know.
That was Rij's bond with Zeta too. Is that you're more like man than machine kind of thing.
And I mean, I also there were, at least in my head, and it may not always come across in our wordsmithing, but there's a lot of cinematic moments that Zeta had for me personally in especially out in space. Being alone,
those were cool.
Being in the silence, being in the void, and whether it was reaching out to, you know, alter a ship's, whatever a ship was doing, or the satellite, you know, it just hugely powerful moments, but done in silence and alone. I think, again, Zeta is almost, he was a child. He was only, you know, almost barely a year old, and just playing him as this weird kind of directive life form was cool. I enjoyed the character a lot.
Weird silence.
A reflective moment.
Okay. Thank you all for your favorite scenes, especially Dan. Yours is great. Yes.
We owe a big thanks to the Galactic Empire.
Yeah, Galactic Empire officials. The baddest in the Michael Jackson sense of the word, soundtrack. Galactic Empire official. We saw them in Boston.
That was amazing.
It was such a fucking awesome show. Like they play real metal, but it's the covers of these Star Wars songs that, oh my God. They started their set with Duel of the Fates. And from there, I was just on this roller coaster the entire time. It was
We
awesome.
saw them in Indianapolis too.
Yeah.
Gen Con.
It was definitely
You guys did.
a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
Watching them, it was great.
Every time I listen to an episode, I get so fired up
Yeah.
when I hear
So
the
good.
Galactic, when I hear the main theme, and then Liv's voiceover. It's awesome. I want to thank everyone who has posted funny memes, salacious pictures of the Hut roommate. A great addition. My Hut roommate coming to the CW.
We got to film the pilot. We got to film the pilot.
We got to do the pilot.
I think that was my favorite part.
It's great.
Roommate.
Might have been.
So yeah, we have a couple questions that was sent into us by Liv, our epic voiceover.
Guys, as much as I want to be here, it's time for me to go because I have to go stream. Catch me live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on YouTube and Twitch at Live with Mr. Dante and on Twitch with Mr. Dante.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us. We're glad that you joined, and you won't be able to answer these questions. So
Bye bye,
You
Dante.
were the best bounty hunter ever.
The
Thank
best.
you. The best.
It was a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate being here with you guys. You know, you can always call me, and I'm so happy I got to play Star Wars. And I'm actually going to go play Star Wars right now, Knights of the Old Republic. So peace out. Love you all. Mwah.
Peace.
peace.
Deuces.
What are the questions?
Okay. So I'm gonna first put out this question that goes to Dake, Jan, and had a long day. This one
That's our
goes
couple
to
name.
Dan, Jake, and John. Has the return to pod racing, goo, and Gungans made you feel any differently towards episode 1?
I think I appreciate it a little bit more, especially after the sequels have been such trash. It's kind of quaint, you know. Episode 1,
Yeah.
it's a fun.
No,
I'm just fucking
I
angry.
disagree.
I'm just angry. I hate that someone was sitting there either next to George Lucas or George Lucas himself and was like, we're going to call it Goo. And
Goo-
it's going to do this.
Goo never comes up in the movie,
It doesn't.
but they call them boomas and stuff. They have names for all the things that
So
uses
some
the goo.
nerds that decided it was goo and put it on Wikipedia. That's what
but
happened.
still,
It's got to be in a game or something
just-
like
Maybe,
that.
the being reminded that Gungans exist or how they were created. Or
I don't think
how
there's
they were
anything
written.
wrong with Gungans.
To answer the question, for me, no. I mean, I've recently tried to rewatch episode 1, and it's awful. I will say some of the pod racing stuff in episode 2 is cool, but like it's sandwiched. It's a shit sandwich, though. It really is.
I have a
Sorry.
disappointed face on for the listening audience.
Your pod racing stuff was cooler.
Much better.
Thank you. Thank you.
We could have gotten like a bunch of kids from preschool or had like Luna on and
Yeah.
she could do the pod
There you
racing.
go.
Yeah,
Sick.
It's working.
it's working. I mean, she didn't pose this question to me, but I feel no differently towards episode 1 because I think it's great. Okay, next question.
Let's move on.
I don't know. Have any of you guys, are you familiar with any like the extended universe lore stuff?
Half cup.
I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff that's no longer canon.
Okay, so this one is goes into that. So with the events of Naboo being tied to Operation Cinder in Shattered Empire in Battlefront 2, and probably more, but I mostly stick to just the movies and the occasional game. I only know about Operation Cinder after Googling Sasha Saruna, real character in the lore. Was the successful defense of Naboo inevitable, regardless of what happened to S3, Zeta, and San? And then, in parentheses, Lisi and space hockey. How do you think their failure could have impacted the story overall? Interesting question. what I did is I took the Operation Cinder. I do know about this.
Could you explain the Operation Cinder for the people who don't know?
Not
what it
us.
is?
Not
Not
us.
We
We
obviously
know.
know what
We
it
know
means.
all about it.
Yeah, we're
for the
I don't know anything about
prequel averse, Operation Cinder happened after the fall of the Empire. It was a contingency plan set by Emperor Palpatine, and it was a network of satellites that caused natural disasters and to destabilize Naboo.
Oh shit! So your plot isn't original. So you didn't make up anything.
Wow.
Cool.
No, the plot.
so you just stole everything.
the setting is not original because it's Star Wars, and I'm ripping it off. But the plot was a
You
little
didn't
different.
make up Star Wars?
You didn't
Wait, what?
invent Naboo.
I didn't sign anything. But listen, I took cool stuff that was already out there, but I just changed it a little bit. So Operation Cinder happened, which the natural disasters, quote unquote, happened before the team got there, before you guys got there. But in the weeks after, in the canon, there were strike squadrons that set upon Naboo and were fought off by Queen Saruna and this Corona squadron. I'm pretty sure it was Leia Organa's Corona squadron, a group of X-wing fighters, ex-rebels that came to the defense and eventually repelled the Imperial threat. What I did is I just stretched it out. So the disasters took place, and rather than a couple of weeks after, it was several months after, where the Empire or some faction of the Empire sent the strike squad sent the strike squadron to Naboo, and then and I figure the inspiration for that final big battle what came directly from Operation Cinder, and I thought it would be cool for the group to participate in the fighting off of the Imperials and the Kani stuff and Malik. That was all just our stuff that I folded into it. But it was cool because there's cool stuff that's already out there, and then I can just graft on the stuff that we did, and I think
That's cool. I had no idea.
yeah, it's very cool. I mean, props to Liv for catching it. Yeah, Sasha Saruna, Boss Leone is in the canon. Succeeds Boss Nass. There's a bunch of stuff that I had used.
Are you worried about getting a cease and desist for all this?
It's already done. It's already done. All right, we won't make any more. Whatever. But yeah, that was cool. I like using existing lore, but then making it mine in ours.
Would you have been
legally
okay
distinct.
if San goes to the dark side?
Totally.
Maybe kills Zeta and the Imperials win control over Naboo.
Yeah, because then we get video game rights because that's
That's where the money is.
That's where the money is. That's like the Force Awakened or the Force Unleashed video game franchise. We've already gotten calls. I don't know if you guys did.
Yeah.
It's Gungan Unleashed.
It is good. It is Gungan
Goo
Unleashed. Gungan Unleashed 2, True Goo.
Oh,
All right, last question. John,
Yeah.
how relieved were you not to do Rege's voice anymore? How did you find just playing S3 at the end? We answered that a little bit earlier in the wrap. I thought it was great. I mean,
It was a lot of fun. I kind of joked about how fun it would be just to play an astromech throughout the entire campaign. It would be annoying as hell because you'd be passing notes and it would take forever. But it was fun to play that role at the end. But yeah, playing Rege's voice was straining, and it was really nice to take a break from that.
You should see, folks, what it did to his neck. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
it's just it's
They
crazy.
had to take some pieces out or something. I don't know.
there was a flashback scene of Rege when he was younger and an older Kida who had the voice that Rege has now, but you could, Rege before he started smoking death sticks,
Yeah.
he was just this clear,
Hey, guys.
bright-eyed young mechanic trying to make his way. Don't smoke.
Yeah,
kids.
don't smoke. Don't smoke.
And these were sent by Liv from the Sacred Place. Sacred Place. Do you guys know? Are you guys seeing the movie? Do you know that place where they meet up where Boss Nass and all them and Jar Jar Binks gets promoted. That like beautiful glade that is called the Sacred Place,
Mm.
and it is sacred to both the Gungans and the humans, I believe,
But not to Star Wars. 'Cause it's
but not to Star Wars.
Not so
'cause-
much.
No.
Well, thanks for the questions, Liv.
Yeah, thanks for the questions, and Liv, thank you for the dramatic voiceover. I sent Liv the last couple of episodes early
Nice.
because I got her the text for the outro read, but I did not want to spoil her. So I got her the episodes early. She listened to it, and it was great. I hope that everyone who powered up episode 21 and didn't hear the intro was like, huh, did they why is there no intro? And then we hit him with it hard at the end.
That's awesome.
That's it. Another thank you to everyone who contributed to this. I mean, Jake, John, Dan,
Josh.
Jan, Josh, for editing the lion's share of the episodes and all the extra stuff that we do in not a timely manner. Matt, Andrew, Dante for playing with us, Galactic Empire Official for providing a sick ass soundtrack. Who else? Everyone. I mean,
George Lucas.
George
He gave you a lot of
Lucas,
writing advice, right?
we have to thank him. And then everyone who's interacted with us on the Nastygram Lounge or on Instagram, anyone who's watched on YouTube, it helps us a lot. Just anyone who shared it or left a 5-star review, that helps us get out there. And if you haven't left a 5-star review, then go fuck yourself.
And that's a wrap.
Winning hearts and minds.
They're pulling me off the chair. I
Love you, everyone.
get out of here. But that's it. Anything else you guys want to say before we get out of here?
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Wings of Kani. Intro and outro music by Galactic Empire. Check them out at Galactic Empire Official on social media. Our Nasty Graham theme music by A Wilhelm Scream. Dramatic voiceover by Liv. Check her out at Musings of a Polyhedron on Substack. Check us out on nastygrampod.com. You can get full bios of all the cast. You can get all the links to our social media, links to the feed with all of our back content. So head on over, check out the Nastygram Lounge on Facebook, and chat with us, and tell us your favorite force powers.
That's nasty.